This is Blair, and I'm speaking with Denise Estrada from Melange Apothecary, and this is such a great business. How did you decide to start it?
The store is really sort of a culmination of all my wish lists. I owned retail stores several years ago, and then we've manufactured, and I've worked in product development. So this is just sort of a culmination of all my wish lists, so to speak. The idea of making fragrance and creating personal fragrance sort of accessible to everybody and friendly and open, and just bringing in really wonderful products from other companies that sort of meet my criteria of smaller companies, a real commitment to design and product excellence, interesting things you don't find everywhere. It's my fun. It's my joy.
And where do you find and look for these new products that you bring in?
I find them from a variety of sources. More and more, they find me. I have friends in Europe. Through distributors that I've used in the past, Costa Bastide, for example, Klaus Porto from Portugal, the Crazy Poppies, the little solid fragrances we use. I found those, I believe, in French or German Vogue. Just different places, a variety of places.
And what are your most popular fragrance combinations that people tend to make?
I notice a real seasonal shift. I'm going to say right now probably my two most interesting combinations are a blend of a Pakaki, which is an Arabian jasmine, those sort of small, ultra-fragrant white blossoms that are native to Hawaii, mixed with a little bit of a jasmine absolute and just a hint of a frangipani, which is a plumeria blossom. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, people are really enjoying the grapefruit with a sort of a bitter, tart pomegranate. It's a reserve pomegranate that I use specifically for this blend, and it's quite popular right now as well. And gardenia, anything gardenia.
What's your favorite scent? It's probably a really hard question.
I'm going to have to say would be it's a blend from Les Artisans called Summer Tea. It's a blend of bergamot and citrus and mint, and it's just a fragrance that I continue to return to time after time in terms of just grabbing something to wear. I wear a lot of what I'm blending just sort of to test it on myself before I recommend it to customers or add it into my repertoire as far as working with people to create their own personal fragrance, blending notes. I would have to say that would be my favorite fragrance.
And I know you mentioned that there's kind of a shift in the fragrances people choose depending on the season. Should a person typically have a different fragrance for every season?
I think that there are two types of people. I think that there are people who they're really loyal to a fragrance and that they really do not deviate from it. And then I think that there are people, and those are the types of people we tend to attract here, who are interested and curious about fragrance. And I think that when we open this whole concept up of being able to create a personal blend and making it accessible to them, I think that they like to switch it up a little bit. You can take, and we store your formulas, so you can take, for example, if you were to use a bergamot with a verbena and a sunflower for summer, you could sort of segue into fall and winter by adding maybe a little bit of a magnolia, which is a heavier floral, some tobacco notes, an ambert. There are a lot of ways that you can take something that you like and you can just sort of embellish it seasonally to warm it up or to lighten it.
How exactly does the process work when you come into the store? How do you start people off with making their own fragrances?
Well, what we do is we separate the fragrances by the type of fragrance. So what we do is we present them with trays. We start with florals, and then we sort of shift over to green and blue notes. We have your warm and woodsy notes, and then we have your fruit and citrus notes, followed by essential oils and natural fragrances. We encourage people to sort of smell them and really not to look at the name of the fragrance, but to let their sensory be their guide. If you love it, you leave it on the table. If you don't, you return it to the tray. And then once you've had a chance to go over all of the fragrances, and we have lots of coffee beans to help sort of clear the palate, once we see what's left, we're really able to go to work. We're able to see what's left, and we're able to say, okay, I see here that you have, for example, a lot of floral and a lot of citrus, so let's talk about how you're going to use it. For example, a woman was in here last night, and she loved the melon and cucumber. Well, obviously that's something you'll shower with. Most people don't want to wear that. So really, then we begin to go to work, and we start to add add in some cucumber, and we start to add in maybe some guava and some fruit notes, and then maybe some of the foray or the sweet pea with it. And we basically let them be our guide. We offer them suggestions, we help them arrive at their own conclusions, and we keep it underwhelming. We have what I call finished blends that are already poured and crimped as eau de parfums, which are proven, time and time again. People like them. But for personal fragrances, we ask people to start small and work up.
That makes sense. And where should you put a perfume, and how much should you be using to have it last all day but not be so overpowering?
It depends. If it's a concrete perfume, which are the little solid perfumes that I make with the beeswax and the jojoba and the fragrance, we suggest pulse points. If it's a eau de parfum, I like to spray it and walk into it. That's always been my preferred method of using a spray, because otherwise you spray it and you just have this blast of spray on the inside of your arms. A concentrate, because it is a concentrate, it's concentrated, I suggest tiny dabs. I like the inside of my arms, but I also like just above around my shoulder area for the top of my body, and the arms for my lower body. That's my personal preference. The number one rule of fragrance is please don't use too much.
And what advice do you have for those who are first starting to experiment with perfume?
Be open. Be open to the possibilities. Don't look at the word patchouli and assume that you're going to smell like Woodstock. Be open to the possibilities. But patchouli, for example, the patchouli leaf in very small amounts can do a marvelous thing for a fragrance. So don't look at the word patchouli or look at the word jasmine and say, I don't like that. I'd be open to it.
And what fragrances are going to be kind of the in fragrances for fall?
I see a real shift towards the fruits, but not your heavier fruits, your plums, the cassis noir, your black currants, your red currants, the richer, headier pomegranates. Also, because gardenia is continuing to endure beyond my expectations, you can take that and you can adjust that seasonally. You can mix it with a framboise, a red raspberry leaf extract. You can add it in. One of my favorite things to do is to take it and mix it in with a blend I call Acine, which is a blend of some dark chocolate and tuberose with guava. And when you add that with gardenia and a little bit of miel, which is a very warm, spicy sort of, it's modeled after a honey perfume rose. When you blend all of those together, it's magnificent. It's a way to take a floral and adjust it seasonally, and it's wonderful, just wonderful.
And I know you obviously have a big following, even from the press coverage that I was reading. Do you have any celebrities come into your store, especially since you're in the LA area?
I do, but my policy with them is that I feel that if they're going to talk about me, they can, but when I mention them, they sort of don't want to come back. So I really like the idea that they can come in here and just blend with everybody else, and it's just very nice and kind of easy breezy.
Mm-hmm.
So I as a rule, do not mention them. I respect their privacy.
No, that's totally understandable. And I guess my last question is, what plans do you have in store for your line in the future?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
What plans do you have in store for your perfume line in the future and for your stores? Do you plan on expanding or?
I probably won't expand my store because I feel that it's very necessary to be here for what I do here. And because, I have a family and things like that, it's hard to travel so much. I would like to take the concrete parfums, the solid fragrances, and some of the parfum concentrates, and I would like to make them available to other stores in wholesale so that people can mix and match them and create their own fragrances. One of our best-selling products is it's a little blending kit. It's 4 concrete perfumes that you can mix together, and it's just been amazing to watch what people do with that. They email me and tell me what they've done and how they've layered it. So that's something I think that we can make available to people on a wider scale, but at the same time, it still sparks that creativity in them, that perfumer, so to speak, because my goal is to make you the perfumer. That is my goal.
Oh, well, thank you so much for speaking with me.
My pleasure.
And you've been listening to Denise Estrada, who is the founder of Melange Apothecary, and for more information, you can log on to kiwibox.com.